Hi, welcome. You are wondering if Mexico is safe, whether that be solo or as a female. I am here to help you form your own opinion of whether Mexico is safe to travel or not. And as a female, I backpacked through multiple states of the country for 6 weeks. And if you haven't watched those videos already, go ahead and make sure that you watch those videos or watch them after, because you will see how I truly feel about traveling Mexico. There are a few disclaimers I wanted to mention before getting into some topics, and that is one, it is gonna be unsafe or safe. It's gonna be a debate wherever you go, even at home. In LA, Orange County, sometimes I feel a little uneasy and unsafe in some places. Two, bad things happen to locals as well, and not just tourists. I also wanted to mention that in a lot of places in Mexico, I felt pretty safe because the tour guides I was with or met, or locals that I met, told me that tourists are often treated as sacred people because they come and they bring the money to that town and they want to protect them as much as they can. And yes, there's gonna be bad people that aren't gonna want the same things everywhere you go in the world. Also, the biggest disclaimer I want to say is I'm not any type of professional, or I don't know everything, and I haven't gone to a lot of places in the world, but this is my opinion and how I feel about traveling Mexico in particular, based on my experiences that I had while I was there. Before I get into any safety rules that I have for myself when I backpack, especially alone, I want to share my experience while I was in Mexico. Nothing bad happened to me personally, and I did hear of a few shootings in Tulum. Therefore, I did not end up going to Tulum because I just felt I would be put at risk if I went. That was just how I was feeling in the moment when I made the choice not to go to Tulum, because I just didn't want to be put in the middle of a few shootings that have been happening over the past few days. So I decided to go west and into Chiapas instead. In places I was unsure of, and there was only one place, and that was Palenque, Chiapas, where I felt not uneasy, but just a little bit uncomfortable. I know, I'm feeling a bit down because I don't really have people around me, and I guess that's just the reality of travel. And so I put my phone away, I didn't carry around my camera, and I got back to my hostel before it was dark. I think I just felt a little uncomfortable there because I felt lonely during that part of my trip, because I just left some friends that I adored so much, and I was traveling to somewhere I wasn't expecting to travel to when I started my trip. And so I think the feeling of being lonely just made me a little uncomfortable on the streets. And so I just hung out in my hostel, and I was only there for a day and a night. And that first night was just a little rough for me. The longer I was in Mexico, I began to notice how comfortable I was carrying my camera around, holding my phone in my hand, not caring what the locals think, I guess I could say. And I see that as a potential threat in an upcoming trip, is when you get really comfortable and relaxed in a place that you're at. That's great. You're feeling the country and you're trying to be a local there, but as my complexion tells me, I am not a local in Mexico, and I stand out as a sore thumb. So I could never really afford to get too comfortable. And this happens, and it's totally okay when it happens, because you see that the locals are comfortable and you see the other travelers comfortable, but just make sure that you know what you're doing and you're on guard 24/7 and you have your back. One thing that I wanted to mention about my experience traveling Mexico was overnight buses. I think I took about 3 overnight buses my entire time in Mexico because they were much longer distances. I heard about a few bags that could be stolen. I don't know if this was a true story. I just heard in the hostel that that could happen. And so I was really, really careful every bus ride I took, but especially my first one. I held onto my backpack. I put it right near my feet where I was feeling it 24/7. And I was watching it like a hawk. Now they made me put my big backpack under the bus, but they gave me this ticket that I gave to them to gather my backpack, to get my backpack when I got off the bus. And that reassured me right away when they gave me that ticket that I needed that to exchange for my backpack, and nobody had that ticket but me. And unless something was taken and ran, they guarded your bags under the bus pretty well. But I did make sure I had my electronics bag and my very valuables with me at all times, just in case. Now on to my personal backpacker safety rules that I have for myself when I travel and when I am backpacking, especially when I am alone. And there are a total of 8 of them. So listen carefully and get your notepad ready, because you're going to want to set these rules for yourself as well. 1 is bring at least 2 locks to a hostel to lock up your valuables when you're away, when you're asleep, or when you're in the shower. Always lock your valuables. I always have my camera and my iPad and my money and my wallet, like everything in my backpack, my little hand backpack, in the locker, locked up. Why you need the second lock is in case you want to lock up your backpack during the day and you didn't have enough room in your locker to shove that in as well, because oftentimes they're quite small. I would close my backpack and I zip it up and put the lock on my backpack, and mine lock all together on the top of my backpack, which I also use when I travel, when I put them in the buses and whatnot. This is also what I do. I put all the zippers together and lock them to the top of my backpack, so the main compartments of my backpack are secured. Now, just a little tip for the locks that you want to get is you want to get these flexible thin ones. You could get them really anywhere. I got mine off of Amazon. I think it was a pack of 2 as well. Get the thin ones because most lockers don't have room for the big thick locks, you know what I mean? Or even like this one goes on my backpack so well. Just do yourself a favor and get the thin flexible ones before you get any other one. The second tip I have for myself when I travel is to never go somewhere down some alley or in a restaurant where there is nobody. If there's no locals, do not go there, especially at night. It's just better to get a taxi back to the hostel than to walk if you're alone. The third tip I always had for myself, which is a little funny because I met a few travelers that are a bit different than this. I would always tell myself I can't leave the hostel without a fully charged phone or a portable charger. I also didn't use a SIM card while I was in Mexico because my carrier back home allowed me to have data in Mexico, so I didn't get myself a SIM, but on next trips I definitely will. 2 things, SIM card and fully charged phone. Make sure you have those if you're taking it out of the hostel. The 4th thing I always tell myself is get travel insurance. You never know when you're gonna need it, and accidents happen because they are accidents. And you want to make sure that you are insured and that you will be okay if you need to go to the hospital in some random place in some random country. It's really not pricey, and I use Safety Wing, and I think it came out to like $3 a day, which in a case of emergency is nothing. So make sure you get yourself travel insurance because it might be worth it. 5th tip is to dress appropriate to the cultures that you're in. You never want to get too many eyes on you. Like I said, I stick out like a sore thumb, and I just do not want any unwanted attention by not dressing appropriate for that culture. The 6th tip, and this goes for anywhere, anytime, is never take drinks or even drugs from people you don't know anybody when you're on the road. Even though you met who could be your possible best friend in the hostel 3 days ago and you guys been hanging out nonstop and you learned everything about their life, you don't know them. And just be careful and always have your back because they may not. It is so important for you to look out for yourself. The 7th tip, the second to last, is to look like you know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, pull over at an OXXO or a restaurant to grab a coffee really quick to make sure you can pull up your locations in a safe environment and not on the side of the street where you could then look at where you're going and get there. You don't want to look lost on the streets because that might look like a target and you might look vulnerable to some people. Just always keep your head up and your feet forward and act like you know where you're going. Okay, and the very last tip, and probably the most obvious tip, is don't leave your phone or open wallets or anything in your back or front or side pockets of your backpack. Do not leave it out in the open. If I have my camera on my body, it is strapped right around me. Nobody is gonna touch my baby. And if I have my phone in my hand, it is clutched in my hand or it is put away in my backpack. That's on my percent. Just make sure you know where your valuables are at all times and that they are locked away safe. I didn't really need to use this, but this is also a cool little gadget that I got from Amazon, and it's this lock for your backpack that I use a few times, but you could latch it from zipper to zipper. You could even latch multiple on there like so and switch this little lock and nobody could open up your backpack. And that way you know somebody's tugging at your backpack. Another cool thing that you could get just as another precaution, I use that on buses or when I was en route to my hostel and I had a lot of cash on me and I was nervous. And I suggest that for you too if you want to take extra precautions. A few safety tips with transportation is to make sure that when you get into a taxi, before you even sit your butt down in that taxi, negotiate a price with the taxi driver and you know by the end of the ride you are paying them that much money and they aren't gonna overcharge you. Also, they will try to go around in circles and circles and circles if you're not looking at a map on your phone. So make sure you got Google Maps downloaded where you have data to look at the map and you know that they are taking you straight to your destination. And if you're using an app like Uber or Lyft in another country, make sure you confirm their name before you get into the car and don't ask, "Hi, is this for Mackenzie?" No, you say, "Who are you picking up?" or "What is your name?" And they have to tell you and it has to match up with the app. Just be smart and just think a little bit before you get into a car or a taxi. Now, scams are nobody's friend and you never really know when you're gonna get scammed, but some common ones are the gringa tax, because your complexion shows that you're not like them and they could charge you just a little bit more because of it. Or some vendors saying that they don't have change to give you back change. Make sure you either have change or you ask them if they have change for your large bill that you're about to hand to them, because as soon as it's in their hand, it's technically theirs and they don't have to give it back. So make sure you ask them if they have change. The last scam that I've experienced, that I've seen, that I've heard of is from people selling tours in businesses on the street with a little pamphlet as soon as you get off the boat. Just make sure you shop around, you look around, you get the best price for yourself, you see what kind of tour you want to do and you find that one, because as soon as you get off that very popular street, maybe there's a cheaper option. So just reach a little bit further and see what you can get, and don't just grab the first one you get, because they are gonna upcharge you. In summary, I believe Mexico is a great place to travel and a safe place to travel for a solo person, a female, a male. No matter what, I feel safe being in Mexico. Just of course make sure that you put your safety first and you don't become complacent when you're on the streets, and you will have the best time traveling throughout Mexico because it was so diverse and such a great backpacker destination. Don't always listen to what the media has to say and go form your own opinions. Mexicans are very hard workers and are so welcoming to everybody. Try not to let Mexico's past and reputation that the media, especially the US media, puts on them to stop you from visiting this wonderful country. Make sure you leave your safety tips for others in the comments and like this video if you found it helpful or you want more like this, and make sure you subscribe to see my next adventure because I am going back to Mexico City and I'm so thrilled. Just make sure you have your back and do your research. Bye everyone.